Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to MUFC versus everybody. I am your host, Sean, just taking care of a few last minutes technical difficulties here. You know how it is. Computers. Technology and we don't get along. Honestly, one of my biggest pet peeves is when technology just doesn't do what it's supposed to do. I get super frustrated. So, in any case, it looks like we're up and running. Just had a bit of issues with the camera, but we're good now. So, welcome back to the channel and UFC versus everybody. Obviously, this is where we talk about any and everything related to Manchester United as it comes up. I sift through all the news, all the rumors, all the tweets, all the BS, so you don't have to. So you get down to the nitty gritty. And then you get to hear what's been going on with our club, and how other things in world football impact us as well. I'm glad to be able to do that. Glad to be able to have some time just to talk about United, talk about football in general, show off a little bit of how much of a nerd I am when it comes to stats and some of these books and everything. Obviously, you can see behind me there's a ton. That's not me trying to flex or trying to brag. It's just is what it is. I do enjoy it, and it's not just footy related stuff. There's some psychology related books up here and everything too, if you can't tell. So it is what it is. When you like books, you're like a sponge. You just kind of read them all. So anyway, welcome back to the channel. Please don't forget to like the video today. It really does help. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know who's out there engaging and watching, and who thinks that maybe every now and then I stumble upon a little nugget of wisdom. Who knows? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. I see a lot of views. I don't see a lot of subscribers, and it would really mean a lot to me if you guys would just take a quick second. Right in that bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there is a little subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that. Hit the bell notification if you want to be alerted when videos are going live or when they drop. And then go check me out at MUFC versus everybody on Twitter. I am reasonably active on Twitter. I grew up without a whole lot of social media and without even internet until I was about 10 years old, without a cell phone until I was 16. So social media and I think I'm a little past it in some ways, but at the same time, not. It's mostly for banter and fun. So check us out. And without further ado, let's get stuck in today, shall we? So we've got some transfer news. Obviously, we always have a bit of transfer news. It is United. We're linked to every player under the sun. Some behind-the-scenes shakeups in terms of our executive staff. And then I will take a look at our leaked kit and see what we're going on there. And we'll talk about that a little bit. So we do have some executive shakeups behind the scenes at United. The club has released an official statement regarding some of its staff members. And we've made two changes in terms of executive leadership. So as per the club, by mutual consent, Patrick Stewart, not that Patrick Stewart, not meme Patrick Stewart, but Patrick Stewart, who is who has been the interim CEO, and then Cliff Beattie, the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, and the Chief Executive Officer. They have decided to leave the club by mutual consent at the end of the season. So Patrick Stewart will be replaced as CEO by Jean-Claude Blanc until Omar Barada comes in the middle of July. So Jean-Claude Blanc will be interim for the next few months. Cliff Beattie will be replaced as CFO by Roger Bell. So Joe Glazer has actually made a statement. That's rare. It's about as common as a Bigfoot sighting these days. Joe Glazer said, "I would like to thank Patrick and Cliff for their dedicated service to Manchester United and wish them well for the future. Both have been a source of invaluable advice and expertise over many years, and Patrick has served an important role as interim CEO during this transitional phase." Sir Jim Ratcliffe also commented, "I would like to personally thank both Patrick and Cliff for their support in helping us get to know the club and making us feel welcome, and I respect their decisions to now move on as we establish new management team for the club." So what does this mean? Well, at its core, what this means is, so if you remember, when Sir Jim took over and bought, 27%, a lot of people will say, well, he's only 27%. What can he do? Well, again, he is the single most owner at United right now. The one individual who has the most shares, because the Glazers, they have the shares, but they split those shares between each other. So 6 siblings splitting that. Sir Jim has more control. Furthermore, we know that INEOS, Sir Jim and his team have been given full footballing control of the actual football side of things. So this means is that INEOS are moving closer and closer to completion of that kind of takeover of football operations. They're getting more and more of their own people into these key positions in an effort to really focus on performance on the pitch and get United back to where we need to be, back to where we used to be, and back from where we fell, quite honestly. I think we're going to start to see big changes. I'm looking forward to these changes. Like I've said many times, I think that changes like getting guys like Ashworth in and taking football control away from, the Glazers and like Woodward and all those guys over the years, I think those are going to be so much more important decisions than any single player or even a manager. Because it's going to see a lot. You're going to see a lot of changes in terms of recruitment, negotiations, and hopefully, things like anything going on with the academy or the women's team, stadium, training grounds, all of that. I think we're going to see a lot of changes. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be simple, and it will be painful. That's why they call them growing pains, because they are going to be painful. We've already seen it in a little bit with some of the cutbacks in financial terms of some of these perks and lavish spending, which I don't have a problem with cutting that back. I think there's a fine line between showing appreciation for your employees and cutting down on lavish spending. And it's not my decision to make. That line's going to look different for everybody. But these guys are the ones that are in charge. So people have to jump on the train and they get left behind. That's the way it's going to be. Moving on, we do have some VAR updates. No, they're not scrapping it. I know, right? It's a bummer. I wish they would. That's my pinned tweet on Twitter. That's the only thing is just the hashtag scrap VAR. I might add something to it though, because I'm trying to get this LAL hashtag going, this Laugh at Liverpool hashtag. If you guys want to get that started, start hashtagging LAL whenever you can, because why not? So this is coming from Dale Johnson at ESPN. So Howard Webb says Premier League referees are set to announce to stadium crowds why they have changed their decisions after a VAR intervention, and supposedly that's going to start next season. So oftentimes, we show them on the screens at the grounds that have the screens. We talk about it after the fact. Even the commentators in the match will start to speculate as to what's going on. We don't really know why decisions are changed. I don't know what this is going to change in terms of the quality of decision making and the quality of refereeing, because it's the consistencies or the inconsistencies really that are the biggest issue. But Howard Webb says that he hopes the move will help fans understand the VAR process and offer more clarity. It won't. All it's going to do is add another step where you're just explaining how the decision was wrong in that case. So it is what it is. The Webb continues and says it would be really useful for the referee to be able to speak to all of the people in the stadium to explain the rationale behind the decisions. Now, keep in mind, this change must still be approved by the Premier League, and the Premier League, again, like we spoke about yesterday, meaning all the clubs need to agree. But IFAB remains, in spite of all this, IFAB remains steadfastly opposed to broadcasting real-time conversations. So they're not going to have anyone mic'd up and discussing it real time. They're not going to broadcast those things still. We've already seen this whole explaining the decision after the fact in several leagues, including Liga MX, MLS, and then Australia's A-League does this. It was initially met with a bit of skepticism. I think they use it at the Women's World Cup, where the referees' explanations were often drowned out after the decision was announced because the crowd is so loud. But apparently FIFA have learned from those early mistakes, and they've flipped with what they've started to do is start with the explanation and then announce the final decision. So rather than make the decision and explain why, they're starting to go through the process, and then they're going to announce the decision. But we'll see what happens. I don't really think that it's going to make a difference. If explaining an incorrect decision after the fact doesn't change the fact that it was an incorrect decision. I think, again, VAR just needs to get scrapped. It's not fit for purpose. All it's done is just put a giant microscope and magnifying glass, on the poor standard of refereeing in the country. It's really exposed how tightly knit the referees are and how just kind of siege mentality that they will protect each other to the hilt, and they refuse to say anything when there's been clear, inconsistent, and contradictory decisions between matches. We just saw Andre Onana give away a penalty for something that Ederson just did against Forest, and nothing happened in that City game. So it's just, at this point, it's horrible. I'm really upset that United we seem to get a lot of penalties called against us, and we don't really seem to get awarded a lot of these handballs, especially. We've seen it over and over this season alone. Christian Romero early in the season against Spurs. We just saw one against Burnley that should have been given. Like, it's a bit ridiculous. That foul on Rasmus Højlund by Gabriel at Arsenal earlier this season. And honestly, yeah, Garnacho against Burnley, he got kicked. He went down. We should have had a penalty as well. We should have had a couple penalties. It's getting a bit embarrassing, but whatever. I'm not going to rant about VAR all day. I think it's ridiculous. All I'll say again is I'll close it with hashtag scrap VAR, get it going. Anytime you complain about it, also don't forget to @ the FAPGMOL so they can just hear all the complaints as well. It's no point in complaining about it if they're not notified. So we do have some potential transfer news in terms of just the player profile that United are looking for. So we know that United need a striker. Rasmus Højlund is our only striker, and it's a thankless job. He's making runs, he's trying to get involved, but like, again, the other day, he received more passes from Andre Onana than any other of his teammates. Like, that's embarrassing that we're not linking up, which is frustrating because we saw against like Sheffield, for instance, we were trying to interchange a little bit more. He's just not able to get involved because he's making good runs. He's reading, but it's just the final ball is just wrong more often than not. So Graham Bailey recently spoke to MUFC MPB channel. He claims that United are going to be looking for a more experienced striker that Rasmus Højlund can learn from. So an older striker who maybe is a similar profile to Højlund, so we don't have to change our style a bit too much. That's always like a tough one. Do you want a different profile who offers something a little different when the situation needs something different, or do you want someone similar so the whole team doesn't have to change? In an ideal world, you could have both, right? But it is what it is. I do like the idea of getting a more experienced striker. I know a lot of people hear that and they're like, great, another 30, 32-year-old. I don't think it'll be something like that. I think it's going to be probably someone who's like 26, 27, 28 years old, like a Chuba Akpom, like I talk about, like an Ivan Toney, that kind of profile. Because again, Højlund wasn't meant to be our main striker. He's very, very young. He wasn't meant to be the main striker at Atalanta. It was just injuries and poor form that saw him kind of step in. He looks really good. I think that in a couple of years, he could be kind of the go-to. But he's still developing and he's still learning. So someone who's a little more, if Ten Hag's here, I wouldn't even be surprised to see Ten Hag bring Sebastian Haller back to the Premier League. He turned him into a beast in the Champions League at Ajax. And now Haller is obviously at Dortmund. So we'll see what happens. But I like the plan. Again, Chuba Akpom in, please. Wanted to comment real quick because some people have been asking me when it comes to sharing some of the rumors and some of these stories, why don't I share this story or that rumor? Like, most of the time when I don't share something that's even like popping up on social media or whatever, it's because there's just not really sources. Like I've said many times, don't just read the headline, don't just read the tweet. If someone like James Ducker or somebody post an article and they're saying like, oh, according to this, you need to click on, like, if they say, oh, go Caught Offside is reporting this, click on the link that leads to the Caught Offside article and see where they get the information from, because you got to go, it's like Inception here with these rumors. There's a rumor within a rumor, a source within a source, right? So if I do that, if I go down that rabbit hole and the original source and their source is just according to sources or such we understand, like, then I'm just like, well, this is a nothing story then, because there's no rumors here. Sometimes it's because that it's not really news, but just speculation kind of masquerading as news, people speculating, commenting on the obvious and kind of putting correlation mean causation, or 2 + 2 = 5. It just doesn't think. So like like there was that story a while back about like training. You know, a lot of these players are like how like, oh, a lot of the United players don't like the training. Well, the law of probability says that, yeah, there's probably some players in the United squad who aren't happy with the training. That's just, you can't please everybody. So odds are there's going to be some players, like, it's a non-story, right? So it's just, I think, and I want to say that with Samuel Luckhurst as well. Like, who cares? You're not going to please everybody. So yeah, that's whether it's tactics or training or policies or man management. It's just, you can't please everybody. You have to set a standard and then treat everybody equally and fairly on that standard. Some people won't like it, some people will. Or like another statements that came out today at BBC Sport, commenting on Jadon Sancho. They claimed like his media engagement is limited at Dortmund, most likely because of what happened at United. So again, even just putting that phrase in, those words, most likely, like it's just speculation. They're saying what they're doing is they're looking at the fact, okay, Sancho hasn't said a lot in the media, and they're saying, oh, his media engagement is limited, so it must be because of this. Like, it's not a story. There's nothing there. It's speculation. And or like the way Bruno's comments yesterday about potentially looking for a move after the Euros have been blown way out of proportion, you know, and that's not what he said. He said it, and he's pressed and pressed and pressed about moving, and he's like, if I did, it wouldn't be till after this. Like, it's just, you guys, I'm not being mad at you guys. It's just, this is the way the media works, and this is the way things spin. This is the way they take things out of context. You have to pay attention to it, dive a little deeper, be willing to do a little bit more work to find where these sources are, and then decide for yourself. It's very easy for people to believe things that suit their agenda and kind of filter out things that don't, but you have to try to look at it objectively if possible, which is difficult. I know we're football fans. We have our own feelings. I get it, but we got to try. So sticking with Graham Bailey, he also stated that United are very interested in Antonio Silva and Giorgio Scalvini. Now, we know Antonio Silva is a young center back at Benfica, Scalvini a young center back at Atalanta. Now, we know that Sir Jim is looking for younger profile players, potentially ones that have a sell-on value. That doesn't mean that we're looking to become a selling club like a Brighton or a Dortmund or an Ajax. It means that he doesn't like the idea of buying older players like Casemiro or like a Cavani or a Ronaldo who don't have any value. And financially, that's true. It's much more financially sound to risk a little bit of money on a younger player who still will either meet or come close or exceed even their value if you need to sell them if they don't work out, than it is to buy a 30-year-old, because it's just money down the drain. So we get it. He was strongly opposed to Casemiro signing, for instance. Didn't understand that. Doesn't mean he doesn't like Casemiro player, but as the owner, he also has to look at the financial aspect of it. And if you pay 60, 70 million for a 30-year-old and they don't work out, that's really, really hard, because now you've wasted the money, you've wasted the position, and now you're not going to get anything back for it. And so it's a risk. So we'll see. I like Silva. I like Scalvini. We need a lot of help in our center back department. I think we will make one big center back signing, and I think we're going to explore some options. You know, there's a lot of free agents out there this summer. You might even see Johnny Evans stick around for another season. Who knows? And I think that one of either Maguire, Lindelof, or Varane, one of those three is going to stay, and the other two will probably go. It's anyone's guess who's staying and who's going, but that's what I think anyway, not because I have some crystal ball or because of what I want. I just think that it's very difficult to make that many sales in a summer. We're not historically very good at it. We pay our players a lot, so it's difficult to move them. And this isn't a video game where you just put someone for sale and you start getting offers. Somebody has to be willing to want the player. Someone's got to have the wages and the money to pay for them. So we'll see how it goes. But I do think we need at least two center backs, and we need to move on. We need to really do some culling of the squad. So we'll see. I like the players that we've been linked to. We'll see if there's any truth in these rumors. It's going to be a big, big, important summer, though. So we have some other potential player news regarding Alvaro Fernandez. So the Alvaro Fernandez thing is funny to me, because it's easy for people to blame Ten Hag and use hindsight to blame Ten Hag for letting Alvaro Fernandez go on loan. But he wasn't with Shaw and Malacia where they were. Like, it was impossible for Alvaro Fernandez to get many minutes. Okay, no one can predict all these injuries and things, so it's better for a player to go on loan and either like get minutes and come back to United and help us out, get minutes, look good, and if they're not good enough for United, to be sold and give us money. He's an academy product as profit. But Alvaro Fernandez's loan move might prove fruitful for us if you believe reports. So he didn't start great at Benfica. He wasn't really getting a whole lot of minutes, wasn't really impressing, but he's been impressive recently. He recently scored a goal as well. So now Portuguese outlet Record are reporting that he is poised to join Benfica on a permanent deal in the summer window. Schmidt, the manager at Benfica, is, since Fernandez has kind of improved, he's maybe willing to trigger that clause in the contract to keep him at the club for longer. So it's like a €6 million clause, which I think is like roughly £5 million for Alvaro Fernandez, which is fine, which is, 5 to 6 times more than some of the other youngsters that we've sold recently. So nothing wrong with that. I like Fernandez. I think he looks decent. I don't know if he's good enough to be a first teamer yet for United, which is, again, if that's not what he's ready for, then it's probably best he moves on now. I think that we can probably scout and get a better left back, someone who is a little more ready for first team, and they won't cost money with some good scouting. We don't have to just look at the expensive players. We can do a bit of scouting, look at some statistics, look at some profiles, and get someone in who's really good, like a Trufer, or a Bard, or a Laco, or Bjorn Meyer, or the Miguel Gutierrez, these kind of guys. I think we could do a really good job if we just do a little bit of scouting. Or Leif Davis. Don't forget about Leif Davis. I really like Leif Davis. So we'll see. It could be so. Alvaro Fernandez could be for sale this summer. We do have a bit of player news regarding injuries. So Sky Sports reported yesterday that both Lisandro Martinez and Marcus Rashford were back in training. But since then, Sky Sports have removed that video discussing this. So we don't know what's happening with Lisandro Martinez and Marcus Rashford. Lisandro, he was pictured in training recently. He did post a couple weeks back on Instagram with the word soon, like he's coming back soon. We know Rashford went off injured a few weeks ago, and he's not been in the matchday squad since. So it's anyone's guess what's going to happen. But it's, we'll see. At this point, you almost expect injuries every week with us. It's just been our luck this season. It's just someone's going to get injured in a match, and I don't know what Ten Hag can do with that. How do you plan for the fact that people are going to say, oh, he's training him too hard. He's training him too hard. He's not training him too hard. Ollie said these players are not good at training. Ragnick said we need 10, like open heart surgery. 10 of these players need to go. Like, it's not training. Like, it's just the players aren't really fit. And some of these injuries are just freak accidents. Lisandro Martinez had a couple of freak accidents. He was rushed back and he did his calf because he wasn't playing for almost a freaking 8 months. So it is what it is. I can't really do anything about that. You can't do anything about that. Ten Hag can't do anything about that. So what can you do? And finally, I don't know if you guys have seen some of these leaked pictures of our reported away strip for next season. I don't know what your thoughts are on those. They're like blue, right, with little M's that make up a trifoil pattern, and then which I don't mind. The collar's cool, the stripes, and I like when the crest matches the color scheme. I know some people prefer just to keep the red and yellow crest. I actually like when the crest is like the color scheme, like this. But the weird thing I don't like is Adidas kind of designs where they have those weird, like, bold colors in the sides, and then it's weird. So we'll see. Overall, it's all right. I think the M's are a little on the nose, but it is what it is. I know a lot of people get really into the kit releases. Football is so different from so many other sports. How many other sports do have art where kits are that important, where the uniforms are that important? It's every year 3 of them come out, and it's a huge deal. And I'm not complaining because I have a lot of kits and shirts. But it's just funny, right? So, and the leaks pop up, so people love it. So it is funny, but it is what it is. Let me know your thoughts on the kit. That's going to do it for us today for just the news roundup. Not a whole lot to talk about. We'll have a little bit more later on in the week. Obviously, we'll do a preview of our Crystal Palace match this weekend because that's on Monday, which is kind of weird, but what are you going to do? Don't forget to let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button, please. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new. And don't forget to check me out on Twitter, MUFC versus everybody. And I will see you guys on the next one. Don't forget to come back a little later on today as well, because we're going to be continuing our series looking at these managers that we've been heavily linked with. Obviously, we did a little bit of Ten Hag, Graham Potter, Roberto De Zerbi. Yesterday, we had a good look at Ruben Amorim, which I thought was a pretty cool video. And today, we are going to be looking at another manager who has been linked with United. He's been linked with Juventus. Milan are looking at him reportedly. And we're going to take a deep dive at Thiago Motta today. So don't forget to come back and check that one out a little later on. I've got a lot of information. And then we're going to wrap up that series with a really good deep dive with Thomas Tuchel, who has been heavily linked. There's odds are he's going to be leaving Bayern Munich, and he's been heavily linked to United job. And there's a lot to Thomas Tuchel that I think a lot of people don't realize. There's a whole chapter. I know I talk about this book all the time. There's a whole chapter in Thomas Tuchel in this book by Ben Littleton, Edge. Such a good book. If you can't see, I've got notes. I've got a highlighter. I've got a pen. A lot of what I'm talking about is going to come from that book. And then obviously what we already know about Tuchel and his tactics and things. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you tomorrow for the news roundup. I will see you later on today for more managerial talk, and I'll see you this weekend for our match preview against Palace. So thanks. I will talk to you later.